Thank you for attending our webinar today, which is on literacy software for study and work, and the main part of the presentation will be given by Peter Cracknell, who's a manager in our Queensland office in Brisbane, who some of you may know already. So just for anybody who's not attending one of our webinars before, we will mute your microphones during at least most of the webinar, but we will stop for questions, and don't be afraid to ask questions at various time points. If you think of questions during the webinar, you're welcome to put them in the chat box, which is at the bottom of the GoToMeeting interface. I've got a note about webcams. I don't think that'll be relevant today, but and we are recording the presentation, so I'll try and send that around afterwards and to anybody that hasn't been able to attend. So that's I think the general idea today is to go over the sorts of software we have to help people with literacy, and just to give a bit of an overview of what's available and the sorts of features that might be useful for you or students or clients that you might be working with. So, okay, so I will now hand over to Peter. Yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, thanks, Peter.
Thank you very much. Okay, I don't know, I've got to share my screen as well, I guess. So, what is here? Can you see my screen?
Yes, now we can. Yep.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so you should be able to see the read and write toolbar at the top, and some icons on the top and so on. Okay, good. All right. Okay. Though we have everybody muted at the moment, and that's quite useful when I'm just giving an overview, I would like people to unmute a little bit later on and just feedback or ask questions. I think I can get a lot of benefit from this if people have questions, because we need to know the sorts of things that people are needing, requiring, what's on their wish list and so on. So I value your feedback either through typing or just through speaking. That's fine. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of a background about the software that we at Quantum do. Of course, we don't manufacture any of this software. It's stuff that we import from overseas, and there's three companies that we mainly deal with. TextHelp, and they do TextHelp Read and Write Gold. They also do Browse Aloud, and WYNN, which is from Freedom Scientific, and Freedom Scientific are the people that make JAWS and Magic and so on. And then ClaroRead, which is from another manufacturer, from ClaroRead. And these are three different programs, and they have similar features, and it's not so much that one is better than the other, it's just that they are more aimed at different requirements and so on. So before I talk about those programs, just to bit of background about where we've come from. Of course, Quantum has been traditionally a vision disability company. We provided solutions for people with vision disabilities, from blindness through low vision, and a lot of our software has been around that issue, about how to make computer materials and printed materials more accessible for people with vision disabilities. But over the years we've also branched into the area of print disability in the wider sense, print disability including dyslexia, reading difficulties that aren't owing to vision, and similar difficulties that are not strictly vision related. So, for example, some of the read out loud features in our software for vision impaired people can actually be useful for people with dyslexia, or people for who their first language isn't English. So it's the term print disability, and our print disability software is obviously a lot broader than just vision disabilities, but to some extent has grown out of some of the developments in vision software. Okay, please, fire away with chat questions. I'm sure Rebecca's keeping an eye on the chat box there as well. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So the way print disability software overall tends to work is it reads out loud text that's on the screen, and that screen could be editable text, it could be an email or a Word document, or indeed it could be a PDF file, or if you have a scanner attached to your computer, then it could actually be a real paper document or a book that has been scanned into the computer, and then our assistive software can then read out loud that paperwork. So the three programs that we sell are WYNN, which stands for What You Need Now, Text Help Read and Write Gold, and ClaroRead. I'm going to be focusing mainly on text help. The essential reason for that is because text help has long established, probably as the mainly established reading software for people with literacy problems. Of course, WYNN also seeks to address the same thing as does ClaroRead, but I think you'll see from, as I talk about them side by side, you'll see that some are better suited to certain constituencies of people. So I'm just going to start with the WYNN program. Unfortunately, I cannot display it on my brand new Surface Pro because I just haven't had a chance to install it on the Surface Pro yet. Apologies for that. But the WYNN program is actually a word processing interface where your scanned documents or your electronic documents are opened and they are read out loud in that interface. This contrasts with text help and read, where you use your regular interface to Microsoft Word, Outlook and so on, and you interact with Microsoft Word directly, not in some intermediary like in WYNN. So there are pluses and minuses for these approaches. The plus for the approach where you use Microsoft Word directly with text help or ClaroRead is that you're just directly interacting with your word processing. The minus for some people is that sometimes people find Microsoft Word too complex an environment for reading and writing because there are too many toolbars, too many options, it's too cluttered. And the person's essential problem is that they get distracted by clutter and they find it confusing. So that's where the WYNN interface, which is very much more simplistic, much more controlled and consistent, may suit certain struggling readers better, particularly at school, than the text help program, where it may be overpowering for them with too much complexity. So just to recap on that, if you are dealing with students at school who what they really need is a simple, consistent interface for typing and reading back, then the WYNN program may be the way to go. It's uncluttered, it's not distracting, and it's very consistent. But if you need more powerful features in Word, perhaps you're looking at, say, bulleted numbered lists or inserting text boxes or any of the things that we do with Word, then you're going to need something like text help or even ClaroRead to interact with Word. So that's the basic difference between the WYNN approach and the text help approach. So the difference between the text help and the ClaroRead is that the text help is much more fully featured. It has got a whole mass of features for people to interact with their Word or their email or their internet environments, reading them back and so on. The ClaroRead is a little bit more condensed, but it may suit people in the workplace better who just want a little bit of assistance with their everyday correspondence, email, Word and internet reading. So if you like, it's a more compact version of text help, fairly straightforward to use, and without all of the the educational features that come with text help. So I think that's we often find that in the workplace environment we get perhaps more requests for the ClaroRead than we do for the text help, but we still get requests for text help too. All right, so I'm going to pretty much concentrate on the text help, and where relevant I might just say, oh, this also is available in ClaroRead and so on. How are we going so far? Is everybody hearing me okay? And everybody wants to chat?
Yeah, I can
up or whatever.
I can see if anyone's got any queries so far. Any questions so far? No. Okay, so if people want to unmute themselves, you can click on the microphone next to your name in the list, so you should be able to do that, or at the top. Okay. Otherwise,
So
we'll carry on.
I'm just going to open up a Word document, and I'll just move. I'm getting a picture of me out of the way. I can just see my mug window there. Close that up. This may turn me off, but all right. So on the screen, you should just see a blank document, and at the top of my Word document is a toolbar, which is the Read and Write for Windows toolbar. And I can drag this toolbar, I can move it around just by grabbing the title, and I can just move it around wherever I like, or I can just dock it to the top of the screen like that. I just push it to the top and it just docks to the top. And of course the advantage of that is I can then access my Word toolbar without it being overlaid by the text help toolbar. So I've actually got my text help toolbar set to show all features. And you'll see about 15 features there. And in fact, there are so many that there's an overflow area on the right here with a couple of chevrons for the non-viewable toolbar buttons. When I click on that, that pulls down the overflow down the right-hand side here. I hope everybody can see that. So I think you can see that there's a heap of options. One of the nice things about text help is that you can customize your toolbar so that you can reduce features. So you may have a client who doesn't want to see all of those features, they just want to have 5 or 6 items that they use every day. And they can actually go a little further to the right, this little down triangle here, and they can actually go down to current toolbar, and at the moment you'll see I've got all features set. But I could choose a preset reading features toolbar, writing features toolbar, research, or my features. And on my features I could choose to subtract some features or add some features in. And that's how I could reduce the amount of options I'd have on the toolbar at the top. I'm just going to leave it all on everything at the moment and pretty much walk you through most of these features. And one of the reasons I do that is so that if anybody wants to put out a shout out and say, oh, that's very interesting, or that's not at all relevant, then I can move forward and back and so on. I think sometimes it's good to get an overview so that I think that's quite good sometimes, so that maybe people have been aware of 1 or 2 features in text help or other similar programs, but weren't aware that it could do this or that. And so I'm just going to take you through it from the start. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to click back into my Word document. Name. I don't know if that volume is loud enough for you.
Could probably be a little bit louder. Yeah, thanks, Peter. Yeah.
Peter and capital I live in WYNN.
Okay, so as I'm typing, it just echoes back what I'm typing. I can have that set to echoing every single letter if I wanted to, or I can have it wait for the word to be complete before it says it says it. And there's a control in here to adjust that. I think it's under speech options. Rebecca, I don't know if you know where the adjust to character by the read by character is.
Speech options. Okay.
I'll let you have a look while I'm continuing with that.
I'm not sure. I'll just have to look.
So this is typing where we can actually hear with an Australian voice, if we choose, everything that we type. Now that point about the Australian voice is very, very important, because it will pronounce place names reasonably correctly if you have the Australian voice set to Australian. If we had a British voice set, let's just have a look at that. I'm going to go to the speech options, which is under the play button, and I choose a different voice. I can only choose those two here at the moment. Say a British voice. Then when I come to words like Kapalabar, Indrapilli, it's going to say them with a British pronunciation. And of course that can be very confusing for people who may think they may have misspelled something. So we always obviously recommend that we use the local synthesizers to speak back. Now, if I want to have that read back to me,
Hello, my name is Peter and I live in WYNN.
all I need to do is go to the play button, and it not only does it read it.
Hello, my name is Peter and I live in WYNN.
Now I don't know if this is tracking for you in the session, but on my screen that's actually synchronized, so that as it says the word Peter, the highlight is on the word Peter, and it then moves to the next word. That's what we call a bimodal approach. It's very, very powerful for people that struggle to read, maybe just with poor literacy or dyslexia, because they can actually, it should actually in time be an educational process where they will be able to reinforce the visual appearance of a word and associate it with the pronunciation of a word. So we would expect that some people would actually increase their vocabulary and their reading ability by using the program.
Yep. Just with that reading, Peter, to do by word, it is under speech options. It should be under the auto read settings, if you've got that.
I do, yes.
And then speak on each letter.
So I'll just take you back a step. So we go to the play button, we pull down with a little down triangle the menu below that. We go to speech options, and I've got 4 tabs. I've got the speech, which is to do with the synthesizer, where I can control the pitch of the voice, the speed of the voice, and the amount of pause between words. And then, as Rebecca pointed out, we have auto read, where I can decide to just speak when the word is complete or on each letter. So I'm just going to try on each letter here now. Go OK.
W-H-I-C-H, which I-S is A-A-S-U-B-U-R, mid suburb, O-F, capital I-N-A-E.
And you'll see how that as I speed up my typing, it kind of just interrupts the speech, but still actually does say the letters.
Brisbane. Hello, my name is Peter and I live in WYNN, which is a suburb of Brisbane.
Because I completed the sentence by pressing the full stop, and because the speech setting was set to speak on each sentence, it then repeated the sentence as well. But of course, I could just have it switched off, so it's just only echoed the letters that I typed.
Capital O-D-A-Y-I-S-A-L-O-V-Y-D-Y.
Right. So we've got some control over those things, and these settings will be saved for the person that's using this computer. Now, it is possible, just on that point, to set this up so that in what's called a managed environment in a school system, you can actually have text help operating, if you like, in a networked way, where an administrator can actually control user settings remotely. They can also inspect user progress as well. So they could look at individual users, and they could look in an aggregated way for a whole cohort as well as to what units are being used, what the settings for an individual user are, what levels of the dictionary are being used, and so on. That's a more complex deployment, but it does give schools a lot of control over cohorts of learners. So, for example, you might put a particular student into a group of a certain level, and say what we're going to do is we're going to download a particular dictionary to the group. So we might have advanced definitions in a dictionary or basic definitions, and we can actually also pump in word lists as well. And then we can do that remotely so that they all get that. And then we can actually measure their usage of the program over time and see how they're progressing. Obviously, that's a more complex way of using the program, but it's one of the reasons why text help is probably the leading product in the school environment, because it does offer that higher level of sophistication to schools. So they've got a number of users with different levels of literacy and so on. But frequently, text help is just used in a standalone sense, like I'm using it now. Any changes I make are just specific to this computer, which of course is only used by me. So, all right. So, as we're typing, one of the features we can use with text help is word prediction. On my toolbar, I've got it set to one of those crystal balls, and when I switch that on, I get a box, and as I type now, it's going to predict the next letters I'm going to be typing.
Capital H.
I just typed an H, and you'll probably see there in the blue box that the top of the list is hello. And this is a dynamic word prediction system which does learn, so it will adapt to the individual user, and it will promote words that are commonly used. So here we go, hello's top of the list. I can choose from that prediction list in a number of ways. I could, with the mouse, just click on the word, and you'll notice that as I move my mouse over it, it pronounces the word.
Hence, here, hello.
So I could click, and it's automatically then completed the word and put it in for me. Now, for short, familiar words, you probably wouldn't do that. You would just type the word.
Y N A N E.
Or, if I didn't want to move my hands away from the keyboard and move with the mouse, I could just hit the function key relevant to the word I want. So I could hit just F1 or is. Let's get it out. And moves on to the next word. The only issue with that is then I can't hear the word directly because I haven't moved my mouse over it. There is a feature in the settings for word prediction where I can ask it to automatically announce the list, F1 through F12 or F6 or however many are displayed, and I can just listen to them sequentially and then choose F3, F4 or whatever. But that's quite a slow feature, and probably you'd find that an interaction with the mouse is probably the way that people will use it. And I just need to reiterate that this is not, we're not talking about a program for people with vision impairment. We're talking about people that are mouse users as well as keyboard users. So, whereas for people with vision impairment, using the mouse would be an issue. Most of the people that use text help would have good vision. It's just they have other issues with reading. Now, the little green symbol to the left of Peter, not on, and so on, that just refers to the likelihood of this being the word you mean. There are three symbols that can be used. One's a triangle, one's a square, one's a circle, and they basically refer to just a quick visual clue that this is very likely to be the word, and if you have a triangle, it's less likely to be the word, and so on and so on. You'll also notice that there is, or you may be able to see, that some of the words have got like an ear next to the word. Now, this is not referring to the fact that you can hear the word when you click on the ear. We can hear the word just by hovering over the word. All it's indicating is that this is a confusable word. Now, what text help means by confusable words is that it could be a word that could be spelt in a different way with a different meaning, perhaps. So the word not could be N-O-T, negative, or it could be K-N-O-T, for a knot in a piece of wood or a piece of string or something like that. So this is just an indicator to people who often do confuse words that they might want to check that they're getting the right sense of the word. And in fact, just to the left here, we have a picture of an open dictionary, and this, when I click on that, will actually give the definition, a quick definition, and this is in case an advanced of N-O-T, like this. So that's just a quick access to the dictionary, just to check that that is exactly what they meant. Another feature of word prediction is that it is possible to train the word prediction either by adding in or importing lists of words. So you may be, the person might be in a particular discipline, maybe they're in a particular field of work where there's a lot of words that were local to that field, or maybe they were studying a subject which may be biology or history. You can actually import documents which contain a lot of typical words, and that will help populate the word prediction, so it will promote certain words to the top of the list, which can be quite useful if there were many possibilities there. It's also possible to teach the word prediction to take slight phonetic misspellings as well. So if somebody always consistently forgets that the word psychologist starts with a P, and they tend instead to start with a C, let's say, for example, you can actually train the word prediction. And when I say you, I would normally mean a teacher would train that person's word prediction to promote the PSY, even though they started with the CY. And I think this should work. I did try this earlier, so we'll give it a go. Whatever, let's get rid of this.
Capital A-M, A, C, Y, C.
Okay, now I type CYC, and because I've trained it that CYC could possibly be my way of mistaking for PSYC, it has promoted then these other ones here. And then at this point the person could just...
Psychologist.
Ah, that's what I meant, yeah. And we would hope then that student might then start to might be a PSY rather than a CYC.
P-S-Y-C-H
It's not doing this now.
O-L-O-G-T.
It's only doing, we'll have to retrain it for psychologists itself as well, Rebecca.
Okay.
Of course, the other thing is it could be...
S-Y-C.
There are many ways that people misspell words. Obviously, we would not expect the student that struggles to be adjusting their word prediction dictionary, because you can imagine that's a recipe for disaster. they're populated with too many mistakes. This is more an interaction between a teacher and a student, so that if they identify common mistakes, they can add them into the word prediction quiz. Are there any questions about that? I'm just going to take that out of the way so I can see. Yeah, Michelle's got a question about the reading back of sentences. Yes, so if we want to make adjustments to reading speed and so on, so I'm just going to show you the current rate.
Hello, my name is Peter and I live in WYNN, which is the suburb of Brisbane. Today is a lovely day.
So I can go into
psychologist sick.
Speech options under to the right of the play button, and we can adjust the speed here with a slider.
Hello, my name is Peter and I live in WYNN, which is the suburb of Brisbane. Today is a lovely day. Today is a lovely day. Hello, I am a
I paused it there with a pause button there as well. So yes, we can adjust the speed.
Okay. Yep. Well, we have. I won't answer one of our people later and email individually, but somebody's asked about general training. We can always provide individual training over by webinar or something like that. So that is that we can always quote for training, or we can do webinars for an individual group if that's needed. If there's software, if you're actually getting the software, so that's something that we can do. So. Yeah. So.
Those things work better when you're very focused on a particular, for example, a school-based situation or a workplace situation.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's take a workplace situation. For people who are in the workplace, they can actually have text help or similar programs purchased for them by the federal government through the Workplace Modification Scheme, and that can also fund the training of that product. That can then be very, very specific to an individual's direct requirements in a particular job, in a particular environment.
Yeah, so we can tailor it. Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind just talking a little bit about that for anybody in our group who isn't not in education but more in the work sphere. What we have found is that there are a number of people who are very experienced in a particular field. They might be a fitter or a welder or a plant operator or something like that, or a foreman. Increasingly, with the amount of extra bureaucracy that's often put down on those people, they're struggling to remain employed because they're either having to do induction tests for every job they do, OH&S forms they have to fill in, all sorts of highly literate sort of things they have to do, and yet their actual expertise is really just that they're excellent plant operators or great welders and so on. So this is where certain very specific types of text help or ClaroRead can be really useful for, say, bringing back a form, assisting with their spelling when they're completing a form, or an email to colleagues and that sort of thing. So with training, it's always very focused in that sense on very direct requirements of people, rather than some very general sort of training.
Mm-hmm.
So the next thing we can do is, looking back here at this document, is we can do a spell check on the document. And we can, this is obviously a bit similar to a Microsoft Word spell check, but in addition it gives definitions of the words that have, in this case it couldn't actually find SYC, and it's suggested some other words here. And as you click on these words, the actual the actual definition of the word is shown here as well. And if I can...
Sky.
There is a way of just reading
Sky, the grey or blue space that you see when you are outdoors and look up, the clouds in the sky.
And it's still reading at the same rate that we sped it up to there, so I might slow that down a fraction. But do you see how useful that is compared to a Microsoft Word spell check? First of all, it's giving a very wide range of alternatives, and on each one you can get a quick definition and have it read out loud at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it seems like such a simple thing, but it's actually a very powerful thing for people who are struggling to read. There weren't that many problems with this sentence, so it hasn't come up with anything substantial. But let me just see if I can add in some extra things here.
E A R D A K E W P N.
Okay, so if I do a spell check now on this, again, it's only found the word SYC as a problem, but we know that there's more than that.
Spell check completed.
Because we know that this doesn't make any sense. I made a new pen. If I listen to it,
hello, I am a psychologist sick. I made a new pen.
Sounds perfect. Nothing wrong with that. So I then I then send that email to somebody, and they instantly know that I have no idea how to spell correctly. And of course that's pretty catastrophic in the world of work. But so we need to go one level above that to confusable words. So we have this issue, this area of homophones. And what I want to do now is I want to show homophones in Microsoft Word. And they come out in blue now. So all the blue words are words that, I don't know about suburb, but all the other blue words could be confusable. I made new. They could all be confusable. And so when I now click on the Sounds Like button, it actually can show me word by word, do I mean in, as in enter, or do I mean in, as in a small hotel? Well, I meant in. Of course, I can remember I can still read.
If you go in, you enter a place, you enter the door and went in.
I can still click on play and have it read for me.
A small hotel or pub often found in the country. We asked if we could spend the night in the inn.
So I know that it's the first one, and I change it. Well, I didn't need to change it because it was already right. The next one, which? Is it which or is it which? It was the first time right, so I'll leave it as is, so I'll ignore that. Ignore suburb of, and so on. I'll progress through, if you like, a more advanced spell check. Oh, there we go, psychiatrist, psychologist. If I do always ignore, and this is the danger, then of course it won't pick it up the next time round. So if you're teaching children in particular, they should be very careful with this always ignore, because it may be that they haven't really learnt that rule. Okay, so then we have where I was just directing you to here, that I made a new pen, I. And then, of course, we could read those out. Oh, I meant that one, sorry. I'll change that. Made, a woman or a girl? No, I didn't mean that. What's that one? Oh, as in I manufactured something. New, and so on. So you see that ability to include homophones, confusable words, into a spell checking process is a very powerful feature. Are there any questions on that particular feature?
Any questions? I'll see if I can unmute everybody. Can't see any questions coming up that I've
Okay. So those two features are very, very powerful. In the prediction, you can actually, I did mention that you could import words, if you like, from a word bank. This could be that you just pasted it in from the clipboard. Or it could be you've downloaded specific word banks from TextHelp related to, say, biology, history, or whatever. And you'll notice that also on the menus that some of the menus have a little video tour. There's a very powerful little help feature where you get a little, it's not exactly a YouTube clip, but something similar, which just walks you through how, say, word prediction is used, or the dictionary, or the homophones, and that sort of thing. It's a really, really handy self-teaching feature in TextHelp. Okay, so I'm going to go to the dictionary, and I think we're still on advanced. What's the difference between advanced and basic? So let's put in the word plane. That's a powered flying vehicle, certain level of thought or understanding. If I go to advanced, you get synonyms and antonyms of that. I'm just going to change that dictionary to the advanced definitions. And now you see same word, and we get a lot more definitions, but also perhaps done in a more adult or advanced description. Just one minor point here. The WYNN program, which is, if you remember, the consistent simplified interface for typing and reading back, it also has a dictionary as well, but it has one extra feature, which is the ability to double-click on a word within the definitions and then actually get a definition of the word in that definition, and then to be able to, if you like, surf the dictionary that way, which is actually, as a learning tool, a very, very powerful facility. It means that students can actually, as I say, surf the dictionary, and that way start to improve their vocabulary. But because they can do it so immediately just by double-clicking, it really facilitates and encourages them to do that. Here, I actually need to go through a couple of processes. Within TextHelp, I actually need to actually copy a particular word just by marking out. I'm having trouble here with my mouse. Marking out the word. I can actually do that accurately. To the clipboard and then pasting it into that box there. And that's a bit more laborious than the WYNN approach, where you just double click on the word. So we've looked at spell check, prediction, and dictionary. There is another level called picture dictionary. Now this does require an internet connection, and it does actually look up in here in the picture dictionary. I can type something like plane, and then it will show pictorially 3 definitions, visual definitions of plane: aeroplane, a plane in a mathematical sense, and a woodworking tool like that. And that could be quite useful for certain learners. Perhaps it could be useful for people whose first language wasn't English, for example. But also, you can imagine some students that could be quite a useful extra feature. However, it's obviously limited to, it's only really effective for everyday common object type things rather than concepts. So let's say I took a slightly more abstract thing. Okay, so there's a man in a house with a window, and they're saying that's school. Well, yes, I suppose it could be interpreted as school, but then you can think of some others. Yeah, anybody in Christian cultures would understand exactly what that was, but that's not necessarily the case in other cultures. By the way, it's an example we often use with people with vision impairment, with significant vision impairment. If we were to raise that as a tactile diagram, it would be completely meaningless to so many vision impaired people. It would just be two circles with a couple of sticks sticking out of it. It wouldn't be intelligible. And I think sometimes we forget just how we are accustomed to certain symbols and attach meaning to them, but they're very specific to our understanding. It's not necessarily the case for all cultures. I'm going to try some. I'm just experimenting just to see what will happen. So remember, this is actually going out to the internet and looking up stuff on the internet. So we've got cross as in angry. I suppose that could be seen as angry. The Christian cross the road, and put a cross with a pencil. So you can see that that might be useful for some people, or it could be confusing for some people. Anybody want to throw up a suggestion? We'll see what it comes up with.
Not a teacher. Yeah. Just trying to think.
Okay, I have planets for the top one, and
Okay.
I have no idea one.
Okay. Yeah, somebody suggested head. As in,
okay.
yeah. So it comes up. Okay. The bottom one.
First one.
Yeah.
What about the second
Second
one?
one. Yeah. Somebody else has
Second
said
one is
love.
The principle, love.
Love. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Was. Oh. But again, no.
Okay. All right. So once again, this is an example of a feature in Text Help which is not available in, well, I'm not aware of it being available in any other program. Example of some of the many extras and frills that are available in Text Help. Word Wizard it's a development of the dictionary which just takes you, if you like, like with the concept of the wizard is that it takes you through a sequence. So what parts of speech are we going to have with the word cross? Well, a noun, a verb, well, all of them. Okay, well, let's do all of them. And it gives us the various definitions, the 8 senses. But then, because it's a wizard, it takes us through other things like opposites of cross or parts of a cross. I could perhaps have chosen a better word, and then uncross, and so on. So this can take people through synonyms, antonyms, parts of, nouns and verbs for a particular word, adjectives and so on. I think this can illustrate that some of this can get quite complicated with grammar, parts of speech and so on, and maybe one of the issues that the student has is exactly that, that this can become overpowering. So perhaps the benefit from using these more advanced features like word wizards and so on is where it's done with a teacher, so that there is an interaction there. Okay, so we've looked at homophones, things that sound like, whether we show or hide the homophones. I'm just going to show them again in blue, but I could hide them again. Remember, we're working with Microsoft Word here. Verb Checker, which is just like in the Word Wizard, which will just check the tenses and so on. A calculator. Which somebody will recognise is actually the standard, like the Windows calculator.
66 plus 33 equals 99.
but with the speech actually reading out these areas here as well, and showing it in the all that with the tally sort of style, where you can actually see the tallied amounts here like this. So this might be a useful extension for some people. Basically a modified Windows calculator with speech.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can actually get also the scientific calculator as well.
Mm.
The play, pause and rewind and forward are all related to going back.
Hello, I am a psychologist. Today is a lovely day. Hello, my name is Peter and I live in WYNN, which is a suburb of Brisbane.
Or forward.
Today is a lovely day. Hello, I am...
So we can go forward, in this case, in chunks of sentences. We could go in chunks of words or paragraphs. The concept of chunking is really quite useful. It does mean that people can advance just one chunk at a time. Right, let me just go there.
I am a psychologist sick. I made a new pen.
In fact, it is possible to switch off the automatically read the next blocks of text. So if we really do want to chunk...
Hello, my name is Peter and I live in WYNN, which is a suburb of Brisbane.
And it stops. Now the advantage of chunking it like that and stopping is that people can actually pause, absorb the meaning, and then move on when they're ready, rather than it just rabbiting onto the next sentence, the next sentence, the next sentence. And once again, that's a very function for all of our software. All three programs will be able to chunk in that way. So far we've just looked at the ones available that we can see. I'm just going to now take through some of the extra features which are in the overflow area here. Some of them I won't, I'm just conscious of time, I won't dwell on, and others, so I'll just describe them. The screenshot reader can actually be quite a useful function for people. You see, text help can only normally read editable text. So editable text would be stuff like here or in a reply to an email or something like that. So all of that can be read just by clicking the play button. But what about this area here, the toolbar across the top? That's not editable, but it may be that somebody might want to have that read for them too. So what they can do with the screenshot reader is they can capture by drawing a rectangle or capture by hover. So I'll just try capture by hover. No, I don't think that's going to work that way. I'll do it by rectangle. So now what I do is, if I put the screenshot reader on and I click on it, now my pointer turns to across and I can actually mark out anywhere on the screen. Let's take here.
Insert page layout.
And it can read that and I can repeat it.
Insert page layout.
So even though I could not normally read that with text help, I can read any area that's got controls or buttons and so on just by using the screenshot reader and marking out the area I want read out loud. That's quite a powerful feature, especially sometimes in some texts you'll often have a screen dump, what we call a screenshot. Often in textbooks people would just do a screenshot from a computer screen or something, and that could not normally, because it's an image, be read by text help. But by using the screenshot reader you could mark out just that area and have it read out loud. I think if I now do capture by hover and do screenshot reader now, it should now be able to hover over areas. No, my screen is not responding right now. Jumping around there. I think I'm going to have to just settle for the... Ooh,
0.
No, they're just doing that little bit there. Let's get rid of that. You may find that I'm using a Microsoft Surface Pro with Windows 10, so possibly that hover feature might not work with my particular version of Windows and my particular Surface Pro. But this one, it always works. The rectangle, drawing a rectangle does work. The next feature I want to show you or describe is SpeechMaker. This is actually quite a powerful feature, and it's common to all three programs, WYNN, ClaroRead and TextHelp, whereby you can actually tell it to convert the area that's being read or the document that's highlighted to an audio file, an MP3 audio file, which means that the student or the person in the workplace, they could actually mark out part of a document and have it converted to audio very rapidly as an MP3, copy that to their MP3 player, which could be their iPhone or their iPod or whatever, and then listen to that document or that email or whatever it was on the bus into work or as they're walking to work, without actually having to fire up a computer or anything like that. That's quite powerful for people. That's quite powerful for people who don't always have access to their computer but have pre-recorded information. Sorry, there's a question from Catherine about summarising the key features in ClaroRead. I'll just have a look at that in just a few minutes, because I just want to finish on these features in TextHelp. Daisy Reader is a version. Daisy files are advanced MP3 audio files, which also have the ability to navigate by sentence or word. So it's actually possible to open up a Daisy MP3 file and navigate it with the same speech features that you're hearing here. Pronounce allows you to pronounce a particular word, and this is perhaps, I don't know, you may find this a little bit out there, but if I put the word plane and ask it to speak the word,
Plane.
It actually has a visual representation of the lip movement and the mouth movement for that word. We forget how much we do lip read and how much we can pick up information by looking at the shape of lips. So I go stitch,
Stitch.
and that may be useful for some students as well. I'm going to sort of skip past the fact finder things. These are sort of scaffolding techniques to use some of the vocabulary collection and so on, and organise it into fact folders and so on. It's probably a little too much to go into today with that. But so suffice to say, this is more to do with scaffolding of students' research. Scan, this is where if we have a scanner attached, and it doesn't have to be directly attached, it could be through a school network or something, it's possible to scan into, say, a Word document, into a PDF, and then have that scanned document read out loud with these tools that we use in TextHelp. Very powerful if the only access to the document is in paper or book.
Mm-hmm.
Screen masking is the ability to actually change the colour of the overall screen to, and there's obviously some options available here. I don't know if you can see, my screen's gone a sort of a funny bluish colour.
Yep.
You can see that? Oh, that's
yes,
good.
yeah, you can. Okay.
This can be quite useful for two sorts of people. One is we've often found that people with dyslexia sometimes do find overlays of different colours quite helpful for them. Blue overlays, buff or manila type overlays, rose overlays. They just, for some, well, we don't really quite understand why, but they just find it easier to process the words if they have a uniform wash through it. And I've seen this absolutely with some of my customers, that they switch everything to this kind of a wash here. Some of them then add things like a highlight bar that moves with your mouse pointer, rather like a highlight ruler.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just come back to that. There's options here for that. The translator is a little bit basic in that it can do single word translation or just a paragraph, and you choose which language you want to translate from and which language to, which is essentially the same as Google Translate, where you have a box where you put the word you want and you get the outcome on the other end. So this might be quite powerful for people whose first language is English and they want to get the translation of the word in their own language. PDF Aloud is the ability for text help to actually read even image-only PDFs in within the text help interface. There are a couple of ways of doing that. One is directly within text help, and another way is with the PDF Aloud feature that comes with Adobe Acrobat Pro. Adobe Acrobat itself, in the Pro version, does actually have some speech output features where you can actually have the PDF read out loud without any other assistive technology. And so this is just a way of interfacing the text help with that too. The next section about highlights is just the ability to mark up your text with, as if you'd used a coloured highlighter pen. I'll just come back to this. Have I got yellow highlight on? Blue highlight. Actually, that's not quite as I expected it there. Blue highlight. It's like the word, the word highlight colour is overriding it. Let's just go back to this here. I'm just going to try it. What I've done is I've just changed my toolbar to the Research Features toolbar so that I can actually see those highlight buttons directly there. So now if I try blue highlight, oh, there you go. It's the other way around. You mark out and then you click the button like this. Do you see how I've done that? I mark out first and then I click the highlight like this. Now why is this useful? It's useful because, well, first of all, in the same way that we would normally highlight documents just for drawing attention to things, but it's also possible to create a new document that extracts just the particular colours that you have highlighted, and they can be ordered by colour or by order of them appearing in the document. So this is actually quite a useful way of extracting a crib sheet, if you like, or key points from a document for further research. And it works very well if it's done consistently and constructively. What you don't want, of course, is to mark out huge swathes of text in yellow or green. It's totally meaningless. What you need is to educate people, of course, to use yellow to mean one thing, blue to mean another thing, and that way they can collect colours together in a crib sheet. So they might be using the colour blue to indicate, say, anatomical terms or place names or something like that. And then when they extract to the crib sheet, they'll just pull out just groups of vocabulary that way. And it's under Collect Highlights, that is how it is done. Right, I'm just going to go back to I'm just conscious of time, so I'm just going to go back to the all features on the overflow. Yeah, I think there are a number of features around vocabulary which I'm running out of time to discuss. Essentially, TextHelp is very good at allowing you to concentrate or extract vocabulary from documents so that you can build word lists that you want the student to concentrate on, word clouds and word maps and so on. Of course, it's only as good as the teaching environment and the interaction with the teacher as well. This really is not, I find TextHelp on the whole is really not a good tool if you just unleash it without any interaction with the teacher. It really is a partnership over some time for it to work properly. It can make a lot of things very, 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 it can open up a whole lot of areas for that student-teacher relationship, but you can't just dump it on a student and expect them to use it properly, or, consistently, or to its maximum. It needs a teacher to have a good handle on how it operates so they can hone in on certain features and use them effectively. All right. I'd like to show you, those of you who can stay, a little bit about ClaroRead, but before I do, are there any further questions about TextHelp at this stage?
Questions? Oh, okay. People asking the costs.
Yes.
Yep.
I think that's a good point, because in the past TextHelp has been available as a perpetual license, where you can buy just one single unit of it or multiple units of it, and you pay once, possibly with a maintenance agreement. But now TextHelp have moved entirely to a subscription model, as from October. Basically the idea is you pay for one or more years of subscription, and then you have to renew the subscription on an annual or a biannual basis. So in a sense it's more like a subscription service than a perpetual license. This may actually have quite a big bearing in education and other fields where perhaps people may get one-off funding but may not be able to budget annual recurring funding. In fact, it would be great if anybody has any thoughts about that. They could chip in right now. That would be really useful for us to hear your thoughts about issues with recurrent funding.
Yeah. So just on that though, this subscription does mean you can use it on PC, Mac. They have got a little limited feature application for iPads and things, and also a Chrome toolbar. So you get to use a whole lot on, particularly in a school, if it's students and a home computer. So, but yeah, people's feedback would be interesting on that.
Oh, by the way, the cost is $300 a year.
Yeah,
That's correct?
Yeah. Per that's for an individual. Yeah, it's roughly that, and then there's bands depending on number of. It's based on the size of the school or the organisation. So if you're going for an organisational licence, but yeah.
So per seat, it's cheaper if you go for an organisational licence.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So yeah, any other questions? I know you can trial it as well for up to 30 days, and as for teachers there is a way to get the Chrome for free, so I'll give you our contact details if anyone's interested in that, if you're a teacher or trainer or anything. You can download that and have a play with it.
The Chrome version is a reduced toolbar.
Yeah, I should say that. It's not got everything, but it's got the play and the other different options, so yeah.
So essentially it's, if you're running Google Chrome, then on your whatever device, it becomes an extra, it's a plugin, and it brings up a sort of like a reduced feature tool set. And then on your internet site or your document, your Google Doc or whatever, it will actually read out loud, and a lot of the features you've seen today would be available on that, but not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right, so what I'll do is I'll shut down the text help and see if I can run the ClaroRead.
Mm-hmm.
The cost of ClaroRead is $510 for a single license. That's the Pro ClaroRead Pro. That is still a perpetual license. It's not a subscription. So for people that definitely need just a one-off cost, then maybe ClaroRead might be the go. The text help, by the way, they would consider a 2 or a 3 year subscription in one hit, which might be all people need because their recurrent funding might be reviewed on a 2 or 3 year basis, and it might be possible to budget in that way. But I know that a lot of people would struggle to do an annual recurrent cost. Okay, so on the screen now you should see the ClaroRead toolbar, and that can just dock. I can find if I can remember how to move it around.
Mm-hmm.
That can dock, but you have very similar features. So you have the play.
Hi, my name is Peter and I live in WYNN, which is a suburb of Brisbane. Today is a lovely day. Hello, I'm a psychologist sick.
And the first thing you notice is it doesn't have the moving highlight through the text. It just reads it. You can do some. You'll notice just from the toolbar itself that it's got some features which are, of course, the same as. Of course, I've got my silly coloured highlights on at the moment, so I might just see if I can turn this all to the normal.
Hello.
Okay. Now, if I just switch on the Homophones. I don't know if you can see, the blue is not very distinct, but that's just like text help has shown the homophones in blue in that Word document. But in addition to that, ClaroRead can very immediately make adjustments to the appearance of the document. This is something that the WYNN program can also do as well, but the text help doesn't have a direct access so immediately to adjusting the appearance of the document. So the first thing I can do is, of course, the font. I can increase the font size. I can change the font, of course. I can also change the spacing. Now, the spacing can be the character spacing, the line spacing. Sorry, let's try it again. And what we're trying to do here is actually present it so that very quickly somebody could start to separate the words and the letters. A lot of people who have difficulty with tracking and so on, they do like a better line spacing and word spacing. It gets less jumbled together. So, just turn that off there. That's just immediately accessible for whether it's an email that you're replying to or whether it's a Word document. Then, of course, we've got the spell check. The save feature is also where we can do the save as audio. So this is where we can save an MP3 of this document here. It's also possible to save as an MP4 where you actually see like a scrolling text as well as hear the words at the same time. And in the extras, we have some of those sort of masking features that you saw in text help, where you can put washes of colour over the screen, and also the highlighter where we have a colour strip that you can move to bring focus and attention. A speaking calculator similar to the one from text help, and then some mapping things to do with fact mapping, rather similar to text help but not as advanced as the text help. And that's about it for ClaroRead. It doesn't have all of the, if you like, the educational features which require an interaction with the teacher. It's more of a straightaway, immediate read back, spell check homophones, and convert to MP3 or scan paperwork type toolbar. I think probably maybe more suited to the workplace where people just want to clip it onto their everyday work, whereas text help would probably be more suited to an educational place.
It does also have word prediction though, doesn't it, Peter? Under the extras? Yeah.
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 So let me just note there. So extras.
Yeah. Oh, I've gone in for ages.
Here you can see the box for the word prediction here.
Yeah.
So I'll go back to that Word document. And so as I type, we have in the left there the word prediction with the same idea. As I complete the words, it refreshes to show the more likely words. And again, I can hit F1 to
Held.
to put that in. As I hover over them, it's not actually reading as I hover there. That might be, yeah.
That.
There we go. Yeah. So here, as I hover with my mouse, it also reads the word as well.
Okay.
Rebecca, are there any things I've missed there in those?
I don't think so. Yeah, there are that you can set different options and things like that. But no, I think that's. I think there's still different versions of Claro. So there's the Pro. There are some other standard and plus ones which might not have all the features. And there's versions for Mac and Windows, so you can use it on either.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, but that's about it. Has anybody got?
Yeah. Anybody really? How many people would be interested in the fact that can be run on Mac computers? Is that an issue for people, or are they mostly in a PC Windows environment?
Yep. Don't think I've got any.
And another thing that I wouldn't mind. Yes, that's right.
Oh, someone's asked about iPads. I don't know about for iPad, to be honest, with ClaroRead. Do you, Peter?
No, I don't. No, not ClaroRead. No.
It's just for the
text. Yeah.
Yeah, it is with the text help. It is quite a pared down version. It mostly just does the reading and things. So,
yes.
yeah, at the moment. So, yeah, there is an app. There is an app for the text help, and I can certainly send around the links for that. But yeah, the iPad and Android versions are quite. The features are relatively limited, but there are some things like the reading. I just remember which other features it's got. But, okay, well, if that's is that everything, Peter? And I'll.
I think it's just that if people want to follow up with anything, or maybe concentrate on a particular feature, as Rebecca was saying, we can do. For people that are here local in Brisbane, of course, I can see them directly, but otherwise we can do webinars or go-to sessions similar to this to particular features.
Yep.
And so.
Yep. Okay, well, I'll just take back the presentership. Okay, and thank you to everybody for staying back. Oh, okay. I just lost my screen here. Oh, here we go. Right. So thank you all for attending our webinar today. If you think of any further questions or have any feedback,